Greetings, my name is Pumla Mabizela and I'm with Monde Menecha. Welcome to the Industrial Hemp Talk with Capa Bokone, where we take a deep dive on the cannabis hemp history in South Africa. In this episode, we will be exploring the often overlooked industrial history of hemp from the African context, how this plant contributed to the maritime era and the slave-driven plantation economy.
It's quite interesting that this story was later demonized and covered up as the spotlight shifted to sugar and cotton. Let's dive into an ancient utilization of this very same crop. Hemp cultivation in Africa traces back to industries like rope, textiles, sails, food, and medicine. Now, there are even archaeological findings across the continent, including South Africa, that show that we have had a millennia of use for this very same crop. The history dates back to even the 1100s, where indigenous people used the crop long before the discovery of all other synthetic materials.
That's so interesting, because if you look at the industrial use in Africa, the indigenous people had been using it for traditional medicine, for spiritual conversations and communication, for cottages and for fishing nets.
Yes.
It's a founding crop where cannabis and hemp became more popular through trade, because making it a stable industrial crop in many African societies.
It's very important to note that history has then been recorded and given to us from another, lens, if I can call it. Now, written, produced from a perspective of the colonizer. For example, we didn't have classification and identification according to skin color, shade. That came with colonization, right? In pre-colonial Africa, we identified one another by regions and by kingdoms to which we belonged.
Wow.
Yes, it's quite interesting. It would then be a difficult to talk about when within the African context, due to the renaming and reclassification of our regions. With the introduction of colonial borders, this means our history is not exactly as it was supposed to. It has been held captive, so even the timelines we have are subjected to their own discretion, not our own. With this, we note the role of colonization and slavery played a way big role to conceptualize the cannabis and hemp industry as we speak about it today.
I think we want to then zoom into Monde, hemp and the machinery of slavery. Labor-intensive crop. Now, we know from history, and I mean, looking back at how the crop has been planted, it was labor-intensive. I mean, you know that we couldn't even break. You can't break the heart. You can't process. The fiber is tough to even process. So from an African colonial plantation, enslaving Africans were forced to perform these harsh duties, mirroring practices in the American South.
It's quite interesting that they somewhat created a plantation model, which was actually fashioned from hemp itself. Hemp was a integral and a part to the plantation model because of, just think of it, when the ships came, they needed the sails. So you can't necessarily sail with your ships if you don't have the very same sails in order for you to propel yourself using the wind and so forth. So this means before even the sugar plantation could be a thing, cotton could be a thing, hemp was the main thing that actually us as a continent, we've been manufacturing, but not necessarily at scale that one would then say it is industrious.
Can we then say, due to its economic powers in terms of profit-driven economy, this crop was then utilized as a tool to enslave our people even further, so that they can be able to make as much money that they could. Because if you look at then on cotton and sugar, it does not really need much people, but hemp from an industrialization perspective required a lot of people.
I think it also comes back to readdressing some of the issues that we have as African people, right? Our identity is more locked into us as how we look, how we used to do things, and coming from that angle, we were a kingdom where we used to do many different types of things based on our cultural backgrounds. For instance, one would say linen was the first fabric to be used, but we could still find that even the pictures in the hieroglyphs on the walls of what is this Egypt, you find that they show you depictions of where hemp was also processed, where hemp was also utilized in combination with linen to brew or to make what is this textiles which people were using as garments. And when we talk about hemp textiles and industrialization, people tend to think that it was all demonized and so forth, whereby from our standpoint as a people, being in a kingdom and so forth, it was not as how industry functions and how it is seen as today's lens.
I think that's very much important, Monde, to really explore the history of how these economies were set up using this fabric, and how from that time to today's time there has been a demonization of the crop that was the initial crop. I mean, you talk about how linen was the first. Can we then say the first canvas was linen? Can we then say the first material that was used by your Christopher Columbus and so forth in terms of their ship design and ship sailing material was hemp? And if that's so, then we don't need to then demonize, but we need to then elaborate to say it was a founding crop, and that is the crop that we used to make all industries.
It's quite an interesting subject that we are on, because of looking at all these other factors that we were talking about. Even the skulls that are preserved, one says they're made from the papyrus, or they call them papyrus, right? But if you could look the material there itself, it is actually made from hemp.
Exactly.
This is how also old murals got to have its well-preserved nature, because of the paper itself. It is antifungal, antibacterial, so therefore it is lasting and so forth. And it is so durable that it doesn't tear easily. So this means even the canvas making at that particular era in the Renaissance, it was a thing. Unlike now, it's been buried, demonized, as we said. The whole I don't know why are we fighting actually to have it being in the spotlight. It's one of those discussions as a country, as a people, and as a collective. We need to actually be bold on and spearhead within to ensure that we educate, because it goes with an element of education. This is where people, like you were saying, where history itself needs to show and speak to that industry was birthed from hemp itself, where from plantation to corn to whatever, the framework of it, the framework of plantation or industry was birthed by the hemp industry itself. Although at that particular day it was not necessarily named the hemp industry.
Exactly. I think it's very much important as we go back and we look at where we started to where it has gone to what we would want to utilize it in this time. Now, having understood that this was the maritime backbone crop that was used for all industrialization, and understanding that canvas, all kinds of material were the first made from this crop. Now we are then saying it is the founding crop for all industrialization. Now let us now move on to say, okay, what other products were utilized during our time? We mentioned earlier that the crop used to be used for medicinal. We mentioned that the crop used to be used for our African or spiritual communication. We said the crop has always been used for all other, but let us explore all other material or industries that were informed by this crop specifically.
It's quite interesting that, like you're saying, since it has its ties into medicine, that even us from a agricultural approach, we used to integrate it and use it to feed not necessarily ourselves, but also to help in the feeding of animals.
Yes.
Now I know it sounds controversial, or the thought sounds controversial, of giving your livestock this very same hemp, right?
Yes.
But if you could think of it and if you could look at it based on the benefits and all the things that it brings to the table, not necessarily what is this as an industrial crop, but it itself also from a spiritual and medicinal connotation. Now, I understand that it's so unfair that this one particular crop could be such of a super crop where people used to heal themselves even using it. People used to also feed themselves using it because of, like we say, the narration only ends at recreational. People don't address the fact that you can actually address our own malnutrition issues if we can tap into the protein aspect of this, where we utilize the amino acids and so forth, and the omega oils in order to build holistic healing. Now, take this spirituality and everything together, right? Then we have formations of different civilizations where they would show you whether from the Buddhists, whether from the Hindi, whether from the Xhosa people, whether from the Zulu people, each and every group of individuals has somewhat their history also intertwined in this crop. It'd be unfair just to say that it is only attributed to a certain group of individuals, right? When, even if they could speak that diaspora started from Africa, so this means diaspora happened with hemp. As we moved to Asia, we moved with this. That's why you find traces where they say that this very same crop has been, or rather it was utilized in Asia more than it has been utilized in any other place. But now the very same translation, it has been lost in such a way that they might say that the Asians were the people who birthed this.
Exactly. I think it's very interesting, Mane, because when you look into the internet, it's very a bit confusing.
Facts.
Because one will then say the crop started to be utilized by Asians. But interestingly enough, the Africans are the ones who introduced the smoking aspect of the crop. How did Africans know how to smoke it?
No.
How did they know how to make the very same smoking pipes? How did they know more than any other civilization what to do more with the crop than the other?
It's quite interesting that it's just from at the beginning now, the whole structure rather. Right now we have these fancy words from botanism to horticulture, right, where they will explain to you that botany is the study of one herb and how it relates to another, right, and how horticulture is the usage of different parts of a particular plant,
Yes.
and how to use it
To benefits, yeah.
Now, that shows you that from a horticultural perspective, we've been interacting and working with this plant because we knew that the leaves could be a tea, but were a tea.
Yeah.
We knew that the flowers themselves were anesthetic, depending if we had to do serious medicinal procedures.
Yes.
Whether a person was broken, had a broken bone in the bush, and you had to mend it. So this is where you would find that bush doctors would then let the patient smoke this just to numb the pain,
to administer anesthesia.
Exactly. Now remember, in a civilization that we are in currently and in our times, all these things we have refined, we have repackaged, therefore we've even coined. Now,
so Monday, let's go back.
Okay.
The crop was used in the 1100s.
Interesting.
The crop was traded, right? The crop was used for medicine, for all other industrial applications and so forth. But now let's go back a bit and say, when did the crop become demonized?
Okay.
What laws made the crop. And I can make an example for you.
It's quite interesting. This is where we touch on the Geneva Convention.
Yes.
I think it was something based on opium. Remember, at that very same time, as much as cannabis, or rather hemp on its own as a plant, it was used as means of a spiritual gateway, right? Not just it. It had, or rather, there are also other plants which were recognized within those era, like opium, like your peyotes, being your cactuses, and being your poppies and so forth.
Yes,
Okay. Now with that, remember, the world got in on a craze where this recreational thing became a frenzy. There was a time where even the Chinese themselves were captured by opium.
Yeah, I see.
So thinking on industrializing, and you know that people just focus on the recreational aspect, and this is one of the things that are holding industry, particularly the hemp industry, back, because from a narration perspective, it's only recreational, right? So I think when they sat at the Geneva Convention for opium at that particular time, everybody, their main concern, it was, how do we stop people from consuming this just recreationally, for them to just see the industrious application that they could be using, or they could use just to benefit the various countries and so forth, or the economy.
Could we also explore that and say, due to the fact that the times were moving, and you could not keep the slavery mentality. Let's look at the South African 1870 Natal colony laws, right? Let's look at the 1891 Pharmacy Act. Now, there is no way they could have kept the slavery. So due to the fact that now there is the discoveries of cotton, there's a discovery of all other materials, they then do not necessarily need to plant. Then they demonized it on the basis of certain players had access to certain other material, and they did not want this one because it has the potential not to make anyone be the only. Could that not have been the reason for demonizing it?
Honestly, there's one common denominator, and the common denominator is capitalism, right? In a capitalist structure, like you've mentioned, it is necessary for me to get an advantage over you.
Yes.
Now think, this crop gave an advantage to everyone.
Yeah.
Now, in a society like that, one would say there is no progress, because everybody has now control over certain things.
Yes.
Now, in the world that we're living in, and I'm sorry to say this, but in the world that we're living in, we have people in certain groups that we cannot mention on screen that love the power construct to sit as is. But thank you that we are refocusing and being conscientized to the wonderful benefits of this very same crop.
I think it's very important, Monde, for us to narrate this history. It's very important for our people to understand what took place, what contributed to the demonizing. Because most of the time as growing up, we don't ask, why is Dacha a sin? We don't ask, but we don't also know why we were meant to stop utilizing a God-given crop. But now I want us to take it forward. We are now 2025. How do we bring this ancient crop to our modern situation? We are now facing job losses. We are facing a dying economy.
Facts.
We are facing your green economies. We are suffering from the carbon emission that other industries have created, right, to create this green economy. But now we are saying, how do we bring an old crop that was once demonized to our modern situation for it to be able to help us live and also looking futuristically at the kind of environment that our next generation and our children's children will be able to benefit from. How do we claim and reclaim this heritage into the modern society?
It's one word: culture. Culture. Culture comes with tradition.
Yes.
Tradition is your identity, right? Your indigenousness.
Yes.
So the key here is going back to indigenousness.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, one would argue, but then I would then reply back by saying, has been indigenous knowledge before industrial knowledge. In fact, it birthed industrial knowledge.
Yes.
Now, this means also, remember we spoke that this very same crop took time to be adapt to all these various continents that it sits in, right? And it has made itself adapt to all these climatic conditions, right? Now, for going into today's context, from an industrialization standpoint, in order for us to be able to industrialize successfully, we would have to look within ourselves. Solutions being, in this case, cultivars that are acclimatic to your surroundings.
Exactly.
Now, this even means, even how we structure the word hemp, being industrial hemp, needs to change, because of even the coining of the term goes back to now indigenous knowledge, industrial hemp.
Yes, I love that. Now, let's look at this. Now we are saying we are going back to the roots, we are going back to the basics. We are in the modern society. What we are saying is we want eco-friendly textiles. We want nutritious foods, right? We are looking for sustainable building materials that can continuously be able to do what we call carbon sequestration. We want a bioeconomy where both biofuels and plastics can be made from this very crop. Now, how do we then tie all of this to what CBH is doing today with its outgrower program, with its processing capability, with its research and development, and where do we see us moving our people forward?
Going to that, it's quite interesting. At CBH, they are actually a smart group.
Yes.
They managed to actually centralize this around a seed.
Yes.
And an indigenous seed.
Yes.
Then they had integrated the system in such a way that they gave it back to the people by doing a outgrowers program.
I hear you.
Now you might find that industry in most cases, like maize has contracted farmers, right? But to be a contracted farmer, you would then need, for instance,
to buy this.
Besides buying the seed, 25,000 hectares.
Yes.
Just for you to be commercially
my
viable.
God, yes.
Okay, now here we have a crop that allows a person to be industrially capable by just using 1 hectare. And not even a bag of seed, but a handful of seed.
Yeah, I hear you.
Now, like I'm saying, I don't know how they did it, but when they thought about it, even I myself was mind blown to say, okay, this is something special. To be able to capacitate a farmer at the level that they themselves become commercially viable.
Yes, I hear you.
And putting all these safety cushions from traceability, from seed, and throughout until it reaches the market. Now, in most cases, we found that our people were locked out of industry.
Yeah, I hear you.
Whether you were a livestock farmer, they would tell you that Yongun is not the one.
Exactly.
Go into the Bonsmara, do this, feed it this, do it that. No. CBH, they themselves were like, okay, how about centralizing and changing this whole narrative?
I hear you. I think I mean, our sponsors, CBH, they have something positive going. If we look at the current stand in terms of poverty, Africa has been for the longest of time on their knees begging for food, and allowing this crop to be able to be that contributor to food in their tables, to be that contributor to them being added and included in the economy. We've got so many agendas. Your agenda 2065 and so forth. Everyone is talking about inclusion, but there isn't quite a plan in terms of how are we going to achieve this inclusion. But maybe from their perspective, utilizing this crop then says we are enabling Africans to be included in the economy mix, to be included as not just the receivers of grants and donations, but to be the contributors of their own food in their own households.
Now it's quite painful that this very same crop touches about actually 50,000 industries, and me and you are just looking at maybe the one being the recreational aspect. Now, one would say that each product that the sponsors have done represents a industry.
Yeah.
Now, remember, people need something physical. People need to be shown something different.
I hear you.
And they've managed to actually do this by providing, a wide range of versatility that this very same crop does. Because of even I myself was mind blown that they were able to turn this to a sausage.
I hear you. I hear you. I think more than anything, what we want our viewers to walk away with on this show is how the old can influence the new.
Yes.
And how old ways of doing from the IKS model to today's way, how the old can solve our problems today, how what we have done to the atmosphere, the old can come back and fix and shape and say, look, we can give you a carbon-free environments that are more friendlier for you. I think for me, that is one of the greatest crop that maybe we should really revisit and look at from all angles, like you are saying, 50,000 industries, and say, how do we put structures that we never find ourselves where we need to demonize it again. We need to stop it again. And how we never have to go back to being under a rulership that enslaves other people.
Honestly, this requires for us to bring into play, or rather to the table, already existing industry.
Yeah.
So this means, for instance, I'm looking at from a mining perspective, right? We know that it has the potential to phytoremediate, right?
Yes.
And phytoremediation is the number one thing actually that mines themselves are struggling with. Now, in us helping in rehabilitating the mining lands, and also, let's say for instance, on the housing element, because of this thing, it's a ripple effect type of thing, in such a way that even in mining you find that we mine in order for us to just make a brick.
Yes.
Remember,
yes.
we don't just mine precious jewels.
Yes.
We don't just mine precious metals as
yes.
well. We also do mine
for bricks.
Yes. Now, somebody will be pissed if they would have to close their quarry because of this plant now will now
is
making
able to make the
concrete, make the steel, and make the. You see,
I hear you.
So
I hear you.
So it means bringing in the players
yes.
that are already in the space
yes.
to say, how do we then structure this? Because this is already disrupting in your space.
I hear you, but I think for this show, we have said quite a lot. We have covered quite a lot of ground. And as we continue with the episodes, we'll be able to unpack one by one photoremediation, carbon sequestration, poverty elevation, economic empowerment, rural development, skills, and so forth.
Okay.
So we will be able to unlock industry by industry what could be the benefit and what they should do. Now, our viewers, here is a crop that has always been demonized. Here is a crop that we were all told to stay away from. But here is an opportunity being given back to us to say, how do we plant safe? How do we utilize safe? How do we make sure that we do not abuse the crop? Because the crop wasn't only for entertainment, it was for all other things. But let us talk about it. Let us engage in discussions and discuss what would be the safety mechanism that we all together as a society can put in place to make sure that we can use this crop for the betterment of ourselves.
Yes, true. And just to add in the final, words, I would say, as a continent, it's our time. As a continent, it's our time. We are not in industry, in any industry. This is the crop that puts us back in every industry. So with these last words, I would like to say to the African continent, wake up, participate, take your future back into your hands. Thank you. Stay tuned to our next episode.
Welcome to Capa Bokone Hemp, or CBH for short, a pioneering force in industrial hemp cultivation and agro-processing, dedicated to sustainable practices and innovative solutions in renewable energy in the agro-industry. CBH is a trailblazing industrial hemp cultivation and agro-processing company, proudly headquartered in Kimberley, the Northern Cape Province. What sets us apart? We are fully empowered with significant Black female and youth ownership, driving change and opportunity in our communities. At CBH, we specialize in agricultural development with a proven track record in managing and implementing impactful projects. Our expertise uniquely positions us to deliver renewable energy solutions centered around hemp cultivation. Through our dedicated skill set and experience, we empower rural communities by unlocking their agricultural potential, creating sustainable, successful farming initiatives that make a real difference. Capa Bokone Hemp, cultivating growth, empowering futures.